Hello and welcome to another Tea Time episode with me and Meoni. There's no guest this time around. I couldn't get anybody to actually go on this episode for some reason. I'm looking for more people to actually talk to in the 14 community. If anybody wants to join me for one of these videos, let me know at my business email. You can find out when you click on the channel, or tweet at me or something. I don't know, or Discord, anything really. But ultimately, I wanted to put a video out today talking about what I think is going to happen for the future, and also talk about basically the current situation of Final Fantasy XIV. There's a lot that's happened since I last did one of these opinionated videos, and I thought we'd go through a lot of that. So as facts aside, it's fair to say that the population has increased significantly for Final Fantasy XIV recently, and that's partly in place thanks to people like Asmongold and Co-Carnage and Annie Fuchsia and many other streamers that have since left their game and have moved over to Final Fantasy XIV. I would say that's one of the more larger concepts behind this population boom. There's also the fact that a lot of people have come from those video games, including World of Warcraft and other games such as Terra Online and other MMORPGs that were on the market and still remain to be on the market, but in a much lesser sort of situation, let's say. They've come over and basically made our game much bigger. Now, a lot of people have been quite negative about this process over the past couple of months, and it's been quite surprising to me to see both sides of the argument. Before then, we had, before this massive population boost, people would often blame people in dungeon runs for some reason as being a WoW player. That's the reason that they are toxic. This is something that I've encountered quite a bit whilst I've played the game. And it isn't something that you can just avoid, or you couldn't just avoid. However, more recently, I think that is something that's kind of been retired, as now there actually are more people from World of Warcraft and other games. It's, I think the shoe is on the other foot, so to speak. So there's a little bit less of that, in my opinion, but there is still that stigma there for some reason, as if, you know, instantly playing World of Warcraft brands you behind the neck with something, you know, that makes you obvious. I don't know, there's some kind of like toxicity branding that's going on there, when in reality a lot of people who have never touched that game or other MMORPGs that made 14 their first actually belong to some of more of those toxic sub-communities that we won't mention here, that have never played World of Warcraft. And it's surprising to me to see that sort of dynamic. But in retrospect, I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter what they say, because overall, Final Fantasy XIV has grown as a result of many different factors, and they just have to put up and shut up with it, really. That's what it comes down to. And my personal experience has been an incredibly positive one, of both recent and previously, before this population increase. What I have noticed is that people are tuning into more content, more live streams, more YouTube video views. Videos that I put out, you know, a couple of years ago are getting more views now. That's really good for me, obviously, but it's really good for the community as well, because it means that more people are seeking help, right? They're seeking guide content. They're seeking, they want to consume that media, which means they've made that conscious decision to move their main focus to Final Fantasy XIV, which is something that, you know, is a big step. But I think people like Blizzard Entertainment as companies have made that decision pretty much for them in retrospect as well. I played World of Warcraft, for example, for over 10 years of my life before I switched over to Final Fantasy XIV wholeheartedly. There were times where I was playing both MMOs at the same time. That's obviously, there was a cutoff point during Heavensward, where I just completely said goodbye to World of Warcraft for the final time, and that's pretty much been it. I've actually subbed to WoW for like maybe 2 months since Heavensward, just simply to look at my mount list. Is that weird? Like, I literally just put money into World of Warcraft just to log on, to look at my mounts and my collectibles, do a couple of dungeons, and then that was it. So that was 30 days wasted. I only used like 1 day of the 30 days. And that's happened maybe twice. I think it's twice, or maybe 3 times since Heavensward that I've done that. And ultimately, I think that that was me just having like maybe nostalgic pangs. I thought that the game was more than it was. And I think it's that weaning process for me, because I was very much committed to WoW at one point of my life. It took a while for me to sort of wean myself away from it, and then realization set in that the game itself isn't actually what I love. It was actually the community around World of Warcraft at the time, the people I were playing with, you know, the people I raided with, that was the main focus for me. And I didn't realize that. I thought it was the game. I thought it was the game's lore. I was buying the books. I was buying the merchandise. I was invested. I loved every minute of it. And then I realize, you know, once you leave that place, you start to realize what you miss the most is actually the people. But for the most part, that's not something that any game can deal with. You know, people leave MMORPGs for many reasons. Some people have stated that it's for growing up, as they say, or other life commitments. Not everyone has a few hours a week to play a game like this. And I think there was a recent thing about, why do old people not play games? Is it because they don't love games anymore? Because, you know, a lot of them grew up playing games in the 80s or 90s or, you know, the early 2000s. And what the study brought back was basically that it's not that they don't like gaming, it's that there are so many other things in their adult life that have consumed them, including like chores and DIY and the rest of it and things to do, that the last thing they want to do after 30 hours of work or whatever is to, you know, or 70 hours of work a week or whatever, is to sit down and grind on a video game or start up a video game. They'd much rather just, you know, sleep or something else. And I can completely understand that, especially the older you get. You know, I hit 31 this year, and I've already started to feel like, actually, you know, I quite like the idea of just having an early night occasionally and, you know, having a rest. If it wasn't for like slight insomnia and sleep issues, then that would be even more useful. But the reality is that I still stay up way into 4 a.m. playing games or watching YouTube for the most part, or Amazon Prime. But yeah, so that's the real reason why people quit those things. And the people that I made friends with, that I raided back in World of Warcraft with, the reason they're no longer playing games is because they have commitments. They've had, you know, multiple They've had multiple children, and they, you know, they've got other commitments. They have to get up early, really early in the morning, to either go to work or to take their kids to school or to do this, to do that. Or then when they come back, then, you know, their wife or their partner or whatever is nagging at them to fix, I don't know, some plumbing or to call this thing. And then they get like an hour before bed because they're absolutely shattered. So that's one of the reasons I think that, you know, a lot of the people I played with back then don't play anymore, because they were quite old to begin with anyway. But that's not to say that that's the case for everyone. I mean, I plan to play as much as humanly possible and continue doing what I do long into the future. But other people's, you know, idea of fun might not be to play a game after all of that, but it is mine. But yeah, back to the point of World of Warcraft and, you know, the decline, as we've all read, of people playing that game and coming over. I think that Blizzard Entertainment have scared people silly with the with the allegation stuff, which, you know, obviously I'm not going to dip into too much because it's a legal issue and I don't know enough about it. I'm certainly not anybody who has any credentials in the legal sort of sphere. But what I would say is, if those allegations prove to be true, in which case I believe there is witness testimony and other bits and pieces, then it is freaking disgusting, to put it mildly. It is horrific. It's predatory on the people that work there. But apparently this has been going on, if we were to believe, for many, many years. So, you know, a lot of the content maybe that I was playing in World of Warcraft and enjoying was, whilst I was enjoying that content, the people behind it were messing around, let's put it that way, and ruining people's lives. So there's a lot to take in there. It makes you feel a little bit, you feel sick to your stomach. I mean, I do, at least, when I hear something like that. Now, I know that every single company has its dark side. I'm sure this happens across the board in many other games. And, you know, I'd like to think that Final Fantasy XIV didn't have that, but I've no idea. We have no idea, because such a thing hasn't happened for that. I'd just like to have that ignorant bliss that at least nothing has existed so far. The one thing I will say about Final Fantasy XIV's staff, though, is it does seem like they are incredibly overworked, I would say. And a lot of the extra work that they put in is insane. It really is insane. Like the Viera hairstyle stuff, the hat, the Viera headpieces that we do have in the game was off of the record sort of work, as far as we can understand. That wasn't something that they were told to do. This is something they did as a passion thing out of hours, which is quite crazy, isn't it, if you think about it? But there's lots of crunch in all kinds of video games, and crunch in Japanese companies does seem to be quite prevalent, and you know, there's a lot more honor and respect involved in that particular country in terms of their culture. So I'm sure there are lots of corners that probably get cut, but ultimately, you know, we don't really hear that much about that. So I guess ignorance is bliss until proven otherwise. But for the most part, when I look at World of Warcraft now, I don't really see the same game. Because not necessarily just because of the allegations and those problems. You know, that's a big thing that fills my stomach with just like, ugh, do I really want to support this company? But also the fact that the game hasn't been that good for a very long time, and the things that made it so that I could enjoy World of Warcraft with a community of friends, a lot of that has been stripped away. I talk about people having time to play games, and I think that is a fundamental aspect of that. People don't, you know, the people that don't have time to play World of Warcraft do have time to play Final Fantasy XIV. Do you realize that? Like, here's a prime example. If you want to be at the best of your best in World of Warcraft, you need to log on and do things daily, right? We all know that there are daily requirements for a lot of that content. There are items with a lot of RNG. There are lots of things that you need to do to keep you logging on. Whereas Yoshi P, the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV, has made it so that that's not the focus. They want you to be able to log on whenever you want to, whenever you can do, and ultimately that's resulted in 2 days of playing Final Fantasy XIV. Let's say you had 2 days off or whatever, or two 8-hour sessions. In 2 8-hour sessions in Final Fantasy XIV, you could get exactly the same gear as I have got in a month. And that's completely the truth. Now, that's based on your own time dedication and your own management for that and your ability to do things. But ultimately, that's a true statement for the most part, or at least an exaggeration of a true statement that could be made, right? You could easily go and get the Tombstone gear in your own time. There are physical caps of what you can acquire on that per week. So if you did 8 hours of dungeon runs, yeah, it'd be annoying. You could cap. If you cap every week, then you're going to be getting all of the gear, the same as everyone else. There's no way that Joe is going to get more gear than Steve when content comes out in Endwalker for that week. If Joe plays, I don't know, let's say Joe plays 70 hours of Final Fantasy a week and Steve only plays, 16, let's put it that way, or 8 or 16 or whatever, right? Then they're going to have the same gear at the end of the week. Do you understand? That's the difference. If you put those same digits, that same amount of time behind playing WoW, Steve and Joe would be miles apart, or at least you'd think they would be, but RNG and other concepts do actually come into play where a piece of gear might be completely useless, right? So for the most part, they would be miles apart. But the way that WoW deals with that is by screwing people with RNG. Whereas Final Fantasy has this whole play whenever you want to. The gear is the same regardless. If you get a piece of gear from Tombstone Vendor, you have purchased it with that same amount of times. It is the same piece of gear. It doesn't have randomized stats on it. It doesn't have these bonuses or anything. If you go into a dungeon, it is a piece of gear. If you go into a raid, it is a piece of gear. If you can clear that content, you will get that piece of gear. Now, it is RNG sometimes if things drop, which is why a lot of the time they implemented the token system more recently. The whole reason behind the token system is for ease of use, time management, and quality of life. So when a piece of gear drops, it isn't specified to any particular job. It is a token. Then you can right-click on that token or interact with it with Square or whatever on Final Fantasy XIV, and you can use that token to create a piece of gear equivalent to whatever your job is that you're playing. I think that is a huge, huge benefit. Now, World of Warcraft's messed around with a token system before, but I don't think it's anywhere near as elegant as the one we have in 14 now. There are so many different things that make 14 more pickup and playable than WoW, and that's just a couple of them. Think of how quality of life improvements have changed the way that we do things in the game. Be that being able to, every patch is something else. Every expansion, we take it for granted. The ability to stay mounted whilst we initiate and uninitiate levy quests. The ability to not get heavy status when we're riding past on a chocobo with a monster. Stuff like that. What else have we got? Flying in the open world old areas, that's speeding up that time as well. Once you've done your storyline, you've unlocked, you've done a crystal tower, you can fly. Like that's huge. That is a huge, huge thing. Yeah, they'll be probably playing in Heavensward, but a lot of people go back and they go back to do quests and bits and pieces and raids or whatever they want to do. It makes sense to be able to fly. So yeah, there's a lot of things that 14 does better. Ultimately, I think that the transition between World of Warcraft and 14 is easier because of that. It's easier to say, oh, it's like a whole new experience where I don't have to log in every day. I could, even as a content creator, I could go a day without logging in. I could go a couple of days without logging in. As a person who doesn't create content, I could probably go a week without logging in. There are some people who don't want to play the game at this time and they're waiting for Endwalker or for the 15 car event, by the way, which is coming up, by the way, at 13th of September. Just a referral to that if you've, saved up your MGP. There are people who've stay subbed for like housing, or they've unsubbed and they'll resub next month or something. You know what I mean? They want to exercise that right to not be paying for something or not be playing something that they don't actually have interest in at the time. They've cleared the content. They have nothing else that they want to do on their list. They're waiting for Endwalker, or they're waiting for an event or something. You know what I mean? Now, the seasonal events are designed there to be kind of like a carrot on a stick, I suppose, for people to like resub to the game or keep sub to the game and play it. But for the most part, they're minor things. And if you do miss out on a lot of that stuff, usually the year afterwards, that stuff gets placed onto the cash shop, right? So the previous events items get put forward. Is that a good solution? Well, I personally think so. If you miss it, if you can't afford or you don't want to subscribe to the game at that particular month when that happens and you miss it, well, maybe in the future you'll be able to spend that couple of extra dollars, that you would ordinarily have when you sub anyway, but to get that item that you missed. Maybe that works out a lot better. I personally think that's better than it disappearing forever. Now, there are some events in the game that have disappeared forever. Many people have mentioned how they would love a rerun of the Garrow event, right, with the PvP armor and the mounts. Me personally, I've got all the mounts, but I certainly don't have all the gear pieces or titles. That's a lot of time commitment. So yeah, I'd personally be up for it, even though I've experienced that and I have the majority of those rewards that I wanted. I would still like that to exist for other people. And I think reruns of this sort of content is going to be awesome, especially for the new player base that has come over from other games. They're going to have more stuff to do. That's another thing we should mention, is that, just one last comparison, World of Warcraft seasonal events have always been something I loved back in that game, like Noble Garden, and oh look, now this boss drops a mount, but it's incredibly rare in, you know, this particular dungeon, talking about the pink riding rocket, etc. That has always been a really cool thing. I would like to see in the future 14 do stuff a little bit more like that. Their events are usually really good. I enjoy the storylines, I enjoy the rewards, but sometimes I think this game can be accused of giving you the reward rather than making you do something for it. I think that's fair to say. Also, I'd like to see more stuff account bound. I think that's something that we probably will see into the future, have more things account bound, to encourage people to, to get this stuff one time or whatever. People do play alts. It's weird to say, but you don't need an alt in this game, but people do play them. There's many reasons to play them. Playing through the storyline again, playing through with other friends on other servers. And there are other reasons as well, I'm sure. But it would be nice to have more account-bound items. But yeah, I personally think that the seasonal events need to be worked on a little bit more. Recently this year, they've had constraints, and last year due to obviously coronavirus and the pandemic, and the ability to work in the offices and working from home and things like that. So it's perfectly understandable, in my opinion. And I think they're doing a fantastic job with what they have. We just recently got the polar bear mount. We got all sorts of bits, didn't we? We had Rising event. We've got all sorts of stuff coming up. It's just full of excitement, really, isn't there? I can't wait personally for Endwalker's, like the month before Endwalker. I think that's the bit I'm looking forward to the most, because that's when we're going to get most of the information, isn't it? Like all of the droplets of what's happening and big shocking information. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, this is a great time to play the game for sure, and a great time to come over from other games. But the population increase, as I was saying before I went on this massive tangent, is a really, really, the population growth is a really massively positive thing, in my opinion. I like the fact that I've got more people to play with now. I can queue up for a dungeon, and I'm getting, like the Mentor Roulette, I'm getting really weird things popping in Mentor Roulette, like extremes that I haven't seen in many years, or people queuing for just anything, really. More people are doing relics now than I've seen ever before. That goes for Eureka as well. I went into Eureka on Ragnarok on Chaos Data Center. So the Chaos Data Center Eureka. Holy crap, dude. There was so many people in Anemos. So many people in Hydatos and Pyros and Pagos. It was insane. I just kept hopping between the instances going, wow, there's like a full instance there. 70 people here. The lowest I saw, I think, was like 45 or something, which for Eureka is good. You can do all of the content in Eureka with 45 people in a fate train. That's easy. That's easy peasy. You would have no problem, even with stuff like Providence Watcher in Hydatos. I was amazed. There are more people who have got, like, what they do is they go through the storyline and then they go, right, okay, I want to look cool like everyone else. Let's go do relics. Or people at level 50 are actually doing the level 50 A Realm Reborn relic at that time. Whilst I would have personally advised to wait a bit longer, they want the experience there and then. And that's partly because of lots of streamers are using it as an example of how to do minimum item level content, right? A lot of people are syncing to this stuff now. So they're not even taking the easy super duper route of unsyncing everything like I would personally do right now at level 80. They're syncing down to this stuff, or they're staying at the relative level before they continue the storyline because they want to do Coils of Bahamut or they want to work on a relic weapon. I think that's fantastic. it makes the world feel so much more alive. I mean, 14 has always had this massive positivity of having pretty much you can find someone in any zone in the game. There's always going to be someone, even if it's old content. That's thanks to things like fishing achievements. That's thanks to things like treasure maps and hunts. Hunt marks are a huge reason why the game is still alive the way it is. Excuses to go to old areas to get something beneficial for you and your character and your friends. That is single-handedly one of the best things about 14 in comparison to stuff like WoW. There isn't enough stuff in those other games to make you revisit, whereas in this game there's plenty. But yeah, I'm blown away, really. I fly through, like, I don't know, Fanalan, and I see tons of people doing fates there. I go towards a fate and it's already dead before I get there. I'm like, whoa, who's doing the erratic fates? You know, who's doing these fates right now? And it turns out it's a load of new people, a load of sprouts, and it's fantastic to see. Sorry, I needed a drink. It was either that or cough. So, but yeah, it is absolutely mind-blowing to me to see so many people. And Limsa Lominsa is not just the only place that's incredibly populated now, although that has seen a massive burst as well. We've seen Endgame as well, a lot more people doing stuff like the Dragon Mount farms. There's a lot more groups in general of people going, I want to learn this. Recently, Rich Campbell of twitch.tv/Rich W. Campbell has been doing the coils of UCOB, basically, Ultimate Coils of Bahamut. And a lot of people were like, you'll never be able to do it. You know, with a whole, like, elitist bad guy out of a, you know, like some terrible 90s science fiction show or something. Ha, 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 ha. You will never finish what you have started. Ha, ha, ha. But the reality is that he spent 4 days doing his damnedest to read up and watch videos and to listen, and he had the best possible call-outs. Yeah, he went with 7 other people that had already done the content. But you can't boost someone in UCOB. It's not possible. You have to have your own responsibilities looked after. You have to know how the fight works. I watched every little minute of that when I possibly could. And over 4 days, what was that, 4 days? He cleared the content. And what do we see instantly afterwards? Oh, he was boosted. Oh, he was carried. What a weird place that we live in this universe. Where just because, like, oh, you'll never do it, there's no way. And then when he does finally do it, it's, oh, you were boosted, you accounted for nothing. It's like, wait a minute, these are the same people previously that said you couldn't boost anybody in UCOB. Make your mind up. Like, what? It was streamed on, well, it was at least 8 streams, wasn't it? Because I think most of them were streamers. At least 6, right? With Rin and you know, everyone else, Mr. Happy. And I'm like, dude, can these people make their mind up if it's boosted or not, or whatever, or if it's possible? It just blows my mind. And as a result of that, in a massive flipping of the bird to the people who said that he couldn't do it, a lot of people now, including players like myself who have been told this for the longest time, as well as new players, have grouped together, and now there are people working on learning the mechanics for UCOB and even T and other things as well, Savage stuff as well, in the Party Finder. There's more people in Party Finder doing the harder content now at a base level of learning and above than there has ever been in this game ever before at any other period of time. Absolutely. It's incredible to see. I could join right now. I could stop this podcasty reading thing, whatever the hell this tea time is now, and I could go into Party Finder and I could join a group for UCOB. I can guarantee it. Even at this time at 11:56 in the morning my time, I could join a UCOB group. Would I get anywhere? I don't know. But I'd see the fight. I'd learn bits. Anything that you can join, that you can learn, is beneficial to you. You're not expecting every group to be a clear. We have to get past that mentality. People need to learn that they need to break eggs to make the omelette, but not just one egg. It's multiple eggs. It's not like you can just join a Party Finder and be taken through stuff. the best advice is to find somebody who does mentored runs on Discords and things like that, or some of the streamers like Rin, for example. These people will help you through this content. They will do raid callouts for you. It's not impossible, right? A lot of these people have got nothing else to do. That all they care about is an ultimate. They're waiting with bated breath for the next ultimate. That's going to be, what, 6.1 or 6.2 at this point, right? Depending on delays, etc. They want to get as many clears of this under their belt. They don't want to get rusty at the game. They want to keep going. You know, some of these people, I think Rin said they had done 550 runs of UCOB. He's aiming for 600 before Endwalker. That's insane. Absolutely insane. But how cool is that? So whilst the iron is hot, whilst there are people doing this and more people are interested and invested, this is the time to put all of that anxiety behind us and go into Party Finder and join one of these groups. I intend to do that. I intend to join some learning parties, at least learn some of the basic mechanics for the first phase or whatever. I don't really care. I don't think we should care. We should go in there and get some experience. Any experience is useful, and then we can join more experience groups, and then we can learn other parts, and then eventually, before you know it, eventually you will have a clear. It's not going to be as straightforward for everybody as getting a clear in 4 days. Yes, we know that before somebody comments that before, you know, in the comment section. I'm sure people are eager to moan about this, but you'll get there eventually. The problem with high-end content is people being afraid to do it in the first place. A lot of the people I've always tried to do content when I've said, I don't think I'm good enough for this, or I don't think I could do this, or I don't want to put other people down. All this crap, you know? I've said this myself, but the reality is that you can do it. It's not impossible. You know, if it was impossible, it wouldn't be in the game. These people that you look up to, they're not 1,000 bajillion times better than you in general. The reason they're better at that content than you is because they went in and they learnt it, and now they've done it so many times, they are really good at it. Do you know? That's how it works. How you become good at something is through repetition. It's not through doing it once and suddenly being a miracle worker and being the best person ever. It's working on something. It's progression. That's the heart of what prog means. And there are more people moaning about that than actually doing it. And that's why it's been heavenly to see the Party Finder suddenly light up. People have gone, oh my goodness, Rich did it. I can do it. You know, and that's actually a really positive way of looking at it. You know, look at it that way. I don't know, look at it some way, but you should try and get over that anxiety and give it a go. That's what I would say. And I plan to do the same. I mean, I've been one of these people that have never done an ultimate. I've never set foot in an ultimate. I probably won't for a good couple more months because I'm going to be incredibly busy with work. But I will eventually. I've got the inspiration now. And I think that's the one thing that Rich Campbell stream provided to me. Inspiration. That there are people out there that will help other people. That you can learn something. And after watching that, I'm looking at the mechanics going, right, so that's that mechanic from that dungeon. That's that mechanic from this dungeon. All right, well, that's from that. And it's just a piecing of that puzzle together. That's learning. That's the progression. And then doing things in a certain order. And then, oh, actually now they're in this other order, but with other mechanics. And then the final phase is like, here's everything at once, but without these other parts of that mechanic. It doesn't look that impossible to me now I've seen it, like, progressed on. I think that's that you can watch like a really squeaky clean video guide from somebody that's like, this is what you do at this particular point, and this point, and this point, and this point, and it becomes overwhelming. But if you watch someone progress on it, that's the best experience. I would advise go through Twitch and have a look to see if anyone's progressing. And don't be afraid of asking questions, right? See what they've learned. See what you can add to your own learning and improve. But yeah, it's been mind-blowing how the Party Finder has blown up. And the Duty Finder as well has been blowing up as well. There's a lot more people to do content with. Like I said, Eureka is not dead. which is surprising to me. I'm one of these people that said Eureka needs a Phoenix Down, but who'd have thought that the Phoenix Down that Eureka needed was just simply people coming to play the game? I've been proven wrong, but is this a long-term solution? Are the Eureka relics that future-proof? Well, I guess for as long as the game keeps growing, then yeah. But there will be a point in the future where stuff won't be soloable, where there will be a point where there won't be things that you can do on your own, and there'll be less people to do it. But that's probably going to be very far into the future. It turns out that I'm a little bit wrong on that. We'll see. We'll have to see how that goes. So anyway, I want to just say that I welcome all of the new people and any of the returning people who've decided to make the switch to Final Fantasy XIV from whatever game you came from, be that World of Warcraft, be that Minecraft. Apparently a community came from Minecraft. Very interesting. From Terra Online, from Arcade. I feel bad for you, dude. I feel bad for your wallet if you came from Arcade. I've been there, I've done that, I've spent too much money. Black Desert, I also feel sorry for your wallet as well. Blade and Soul, all these different games. But welcome to a game that has an incredible development team, that has wonderful feedback, and Yoshi P and the rest of the team are to be trusted. They know exactly what they're doing, and the likelihood of this suddenly pulling a U-turn and screwing people over is so low. People love this company for a reason. Square Enix are doing really good work, and in particular Final Fantasy XIV is clearly the flagship of Square Enix. It really is. Yoshi P is even a board of directors member, so if you're worried about the shareholders pulling, knee-jerk moves in terms of making things pay to win, it's not going to happen, because we have our producer and director who has no interest in that on the board of directors. There's so many things that go towards it. The game itself is just wonderful. It's the only other game I've ever played since I finished playing World of Warcraft that had enough content to keep me satisfied, that had enough rabbit holes to get stuck down. There's a relic quest here, there's a relic quest there, there's a side quest here, there's a piece of glamour here. We all know that looking the best is endgame. We've got transmog or glamour in this game. That is the true endgame, to look badass with a cool looking sword or whatever it is, and a cool looking outfit, and mix and match and dye that stuff. The ability to dye stuff is a huge benefit as well. But the content itself, it might be less replayable for stuff like mounts in terms of dungeons. There's not really that many places that have mounts and things like that as a drop, but there are stuff that comes from achievements from doing stuff like that. Like Deltascape, for example, and Sigma and Alphascape. All those sorts of things, like completing on Savage. You can even unsync that to get some mounts, but there is some replayability for those things, but there is so much other stuff to do as well. 14 has this habit of adding a brand new feature that just suddenly, it was like, oh yeah, we decided to add this because we thought it would be fun, and then it turns out to be stuff like the Gold Saucer. And then it turns out to be stuff like Triple Triad. And then you realize that, wait a minute, I've just spent 300 hours hunting down cards for this tiny, minute, minuscule part of the game. It's kept me hooked. Or, oh, I need to get this. I'm doing hunts every hour. I'm trying to find hunts. It's just a tiny little part of the game. There's just monsters that appear at certain times, and you kill them, and you have your dailies and stuff like that. Or, just name one thing. Like the Blue Mage. Blue Mage is the biggest side piece of content that there is. That's time consuming to acquire spells. The Mass Carnival is not everyone's cup of tea, and Blue Mage needs some love, as we all know. But it's a complete job. It's optional content. It's not used at endgame for anything, but it's there if you want to do it. And then more recently we have ocean fishing. A huge distraction. Oh yeah, we thought it would be cool to get on a boat at a certain time every 2 hours and go fishing, and your bait changes depending on where you are and the order of it, and There's all these other conditions that dictate what fish you get, and spectral stuff, and octopuses, and shoals of dolphins, and herds of seagulls that give you buffs. And it's like, dude, single-handedly, these small side parts of the game have become the main thing that I'm focused on. The things that I love the most. I love ocean fishing. I think fishing's fantastic. I think the gold source is fantastic. I love Triple Triad so much that I got the mount from it. I enjoyed Bosgia content, like the new Eureka content that had grind as an option. You know, that you didn't need to go down, but I did, and I enjoyed every minute of that grind so much that I did every weapon. I've done all 17 resistance weapons. I've got the bike mount. There are so many things that are optional, but give you that inspiration to go, you know what, actually, I will log on, and I will go and do this thing, because I've never done it before. Or there's always something on a list. I've got a massively long checklist before Endwalker of things I want to complete. It's just a factor of finding the time to do them all, which is why as a streamer and a content creator on both YouTube and Twitch now, I find that's the best outlet for it. I'll do a lot of Twitch streams where I'll spend hours farming something, and then I'll show the video of a completed product on YouTube or what I've been working on. You know, like we did with the resistance weapons. It works for me, but there is always something there, even for people who only have the hour or two to play. You can pick up and play any part of this game for the most part within a couple of hours in small bite-sized chunks without missing out on the overall project, without being victimized by your own decisions of not playing the game, you know, in downtime. That is single-handedly the best thing about Final Fantasy XIV over any other MMORPG you can play on the market. That's it. That's all I have to say. But welcome all of the new members to the game. It is fantastic, and I cannot wait to meet more of you. A lot of people have been coming into Twitch chat and have been asking me things, new player questions. We've had people in the comments section as well. It is awesome. It is very awesome to meet you, and know that you are incredibly welcomed. We love it. We love it here. Or at least I do. A lot of us who play the game just vie for more people to play with. So this is like Christmas Day, basically, stretched into a year. It's fantastic. And it's really good for the game as well. The more people playing the game and subbing to the game, the more Final Fantasy XIV can grow in both its production quality and escape that it can actually cover as well. Anyway, that was that part of the tea time. That's what I wanted to talk about. My reactions to the population growth and the positivity and what I like about the game compared to the other games and stuff like that. Let's talk about some of the events coming up then. I did mention earlier that the Final Fantasy XV crossover, also known as a Nocturne for Heroes, right? Yeah, a Nocturne for Heroes. That's what it's called. I can't remember all the time. That'll be starting Monday, September the 13th, so this next Monday. That'll be at 1 a.m. PDT, and that lasts all the way up until October the 18th, which is another Monday, at 7:59 a.m. PDT. Make sure you have 200,000 MGP if you want to get a hold of the Regalia car mount. That will be purchasable from the Gold Saucer for 200,000 MGP. You can get MGP through your challenge log. That is a really, really good idea. Go and do your challenge log in the Gold Saucer. It won't take you more than a couple of hours. You've got stuff like Triple Triad. You've got Lords of Dominion. You have things like the gate events. Gate events are huge in terms of MGP. Make sure if you're in a free company, put your free company buffs on that increase in MGP. If you're not in a free company, then you can always go and get your personal buffs through squadrons, which give MGP increase as well. Once you do that, go wild, basically. There's also Fashion Report. We do a video series every Friday on this channel called Fashion Report Friday, which is a collation of information from people like Kayako Star and other people in the community that focus on that, theory crafting and otherwise on Reddit. And there's also a lot of information there collated from the Japanese community that seem to be somewhat the fastest in the world at coming up with solutions and die results. So it's a worldwide collaboration that we just put into a video for people to watch if they want to consume the content that way. But there are obviously spreadsheets on Kayako Star's Twitter and stuff like that if you'd rather have a visual representation that doesn't move. But I like to add context to reasons why I choose items and problems with those items. I think that works out quite well for me. But yeah, the crossover event, Monday, September the 13th, that one is huge. Eagerly anticipating that. You can, of course, get the Lucian Prince costume set and the Noctis's hair, also known as Modern Aesthetics Lucian locks, as well as some orchestrion rolls from 15 as well, which are quite handy. Go and grab those whilst you can. It's not going to be around forever, like I say, until Monday, October the 18th. We also have an upcoming Letter from a Producer live. This will be on September the 17th at 7 p.m. at PDT. It should be broadcast on YouTube, the official 14 YouTube and Twitch. I think they might be doing Nico live as well, but I'm not sure. That's going to be looking at job adjustments and battle-related updates. So likely we'll have some job action trailers launched at the same time as that. Discussion about what's going to happen for every job in Endwalker. That's going to be exciting. They did previously mention it's going to be an estimate 3 to 4 hours of live letter, so bear in mind that if you do want to watch that on September the 17th at 7 p.m. PDT, you're going to need some time to actually watch that through. Alternatively, you can wait until somebody like myself creates a summary of that, usually an hour or two after the broadcast has finished. So that's something else to look at on the channel. I can't wait to do a breakdown of all of that stuff. We'll see how much I can squeeze that down to, but yeah, I can't imagine it being scrolls down that much. Recently as well, they've also been working on new side story short stories. We've got the Tales from the Twilight series. There's 3 episodes out already. I think there is actually a 3rd episode either coming out this weekend or next. It seems like they come out every weekend, or at least what I've seen, or every Friday or something like that. So that's something to look forward to if you like a short story. I will likely do readings of those like I did the previous lore stories. I'm just waiting to basically have a few more stories so I can do them as a block. But yeah, they look really cool. I've read I've read a bit through the first one and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I do like those short stories. I have the Chronicles of Light short story book where they collated it all into a book. Really, really nice. Definitely worth. And more recently, people have been enjoying their vinyl collections of Final Fantasy XIV music. I didn't pick this one up, personally. Vinyl is fun, but I'm not sure I can justify the price at this time. But yeah. But yes. So there we go. That's the upcoming events and information that you'd need to know. There's nothing really major set apart from the live letter and the 15 crossover event, but thank you so much for watching or listening to this tea time. I hope this has been interesting wherever you are in the world. I know it's been a while since we did a tea time episode, and I do like actually talking to you guys in stuff that doesn't usually fit the constraints of a normal video. That's the reason these exist. And I can speak a bit more frankly because most of the trolls probably won't sit through 47 minutes of me talking to you. So there's that as well. But I will try and reach out to some more people for guest appearances. Me talking to myself for nearly an hour is not necessarily the best thing. I want to get some of the stream team members on here if I possibly can. But so far, nobody seems to be interested. Sad face, all the Sages. But there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you plan to do. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.